Okay, so this was the episode that is kind of setting up the finale and puts Mando back on the right trajectory. No longer is it just reuniting with the Mandalorian clan, but we actually got confirmation of Ahsoka Tano's return along with a bunch of other interesting information. This is a relatively shorter episode, and admittedly I feel like I am clutching at straws a bit with this one. It lacks a big monster or two, well, apart from the Mummicore I suppose. Instead we'll be exploring the radical remnants of the Empire depicted in this episode, and the return of a familiar face. I highly recommend you go and watch this series and this new episode if you haven't done so already, because we're going to be dissecting every tit and tat this new episode provided us with. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell button, because I'm making this a weekly gig at the moment whilst producing Doctor Who reviews. So, without further ado, let's get on with the review. The episode opens with such a gorgeously quiet shot that I would honestly have expected to hear the Blue Danube waltz to be playing underneath it. That tranquility was broken by the soft and familiar woodwind theme, with the rickety, busted up ship floating precariously away from the camera. When they entered the atmosphere, the score once again took the lead as a rhythmic smashing of metal was heard, a reminder of how the ship could just fall to pieces at any moment. It made me think that if Mando spent time getting his armor upgraded, maybe it's time his ride could do with an upgrade too. It was great to see this AT-AT turned crane device hauling Mando's ship out of the water. More of that remnants of the Empire idea was shown here, foreshadowing the villains of this episode. It was a rather sweet moment to see the frogs reunited, but I thought it was a shame they didn't play a larger role in the episode other than being mere babysitters. Admittedly, seeing the Mon Calamari on the deck filled me with premature dread too. It's a trap! Being reminded of those god-awful Clone Wars episodes. Thankfully, this episode was set on the planet Trask, where not a single shark boy was to be found. It's certainly not every day you find Star Wars dealing in a seafaring society, so I'll give them points for that.
There's always a bigger fish.
The set and the world-building aesthetics are on point as always. Sadly, I found everything became a little too easy for my liking once the other Mandalorians showed up. They managed to get the child out of the Mummicore with relative speed.
That was easy.
But the Mandalorian helmet was fairly recognizable for those that have watched the Clone Wars. This is Bo-Katan, heiress of Mandalore, that the episode's title refers to. At first, I thought she looked a little young, but then I found out that this character was performed by Katie Sackhoff, who voiced her in the Clone Wars, and is of an age that would definitely match this character's in the chronology. Within the context of this particular show, though, our protagonist believes he abides by the rules of the Mandalorians rather strictly. This moment put into question whether Mando's creed are true descendants of Mandalore or are simply an offshoot of the Mandalorian splinter group known as Death Watch. Then we had a bit of a weird scene on the docks where the Mandalorians saved Mando's ass once again. The only thing required of Mando is to help this trio on their heist mission to get some Mandalorian weapons off an Imperial ship. It was interesting to hear that Bo-Katan is planning on reclaiming Mandalore. Maybe we'll see another siege/attack on that planet in future episodes. Things definitely started overly smoothly on board the Imp Ship. Oh jeez. Imp ship. It makes the heist feel a bit tensionless. At one point, a bundle of stormtroopers just kept walking forwards with a flashbang rolling straight towards them.
I don't sense anything.
But I suppose it makes sense given that all four Mandalorians are seasoned and highly armored warriors. Incompetence continued to run rampant as a whole bunch of them were ejected from the ship. This was quite the hilarious moment considering the information that was being relayed between one officer and another. This pack of Imperials seemed more cowardly, perhaps stricken with fear from their commanding officer and his superior Moff Gideon. His little appearance in this episode struck a chord. No, literally, you can hear Gideon's hurried and frightening musical motif playing when he says,
"Long live the Empire."
As soon as the flight officers were shot, the ship went full kamikaze towards the water. Evidently, those working under Gideon are now under orders in the more extreme and radical department, even using futuristic cyanide capsules. Clearly, there's a deeper connection between Gideon and Mandalore that we've yet to discover. Preventing the rearmament of the Mandalorians and subsequent reclamation of Mandalore is seemingly the top priority of the Imperial remnants. Then the stormtroopers discovered discovered a little thing called cover, and it was great to see Mando taking the initiative in this moment. Any doubts about his origin were put aside in favor of sacrificing himself for the protection of Bo-Katan, or maybe he was just trying to save his own neck from a watery death. This is definitely an element of Mando as a character that I love. Him doing this could be for either reason, but we don't really know because his face is permanently covered from the eyes of others. Finally, it was quite funny to see Mando's ship ascending like a jitterbug, cursing the Mon Calamari for their rather unique methods of fixing up his ship. So yeah, that's about all I can think to say about this one. I'd be very interested to know if they're going to be bringing back Ashley Eckstein to play Ahsoka in a similar fashion as they've done with Bo-Katan in this episode. What did you think of this episode? Comment below your thoughts or join us for a chinwag on my Discord server, where we'll continue this discussion.